Can I go?
Hi, my name is Paula Gonzalez. My name is Rebecca Lopez. My name is Carla Gutierrez.
My name is Lauren Moore.
My name is Shorty Williams. My name is Natalie Jimenez. And this is my response poem. It is untitled. We stood in straight lines like carefully arranged dominoes. Our deep brown eyes searched for the blue-eyed güera, whose crescent smile revealed perfectly sanded dentures in front of a scratched-up blackboard. I looked around the room. I saw the scribbles on 40-year-old wooden desks, felt the tattered pages of worn-out textbooks, and heard my voice disrupting the silence. Teacher, what time is lunch? 60 eyeballs turned to look at me. You see, I had two languages, two tongues, two different worlds, and yet English shrank me down before a white woman. She told me I would have to cut my Spanish tongue to make space for a new one, as if there wasn't enough space for both. But to my other self, to mi otro yo, the one that I allowed to be cut and left to wither, I am here for you. You belong to the people of Maíz, to the land of Aztlán, to 520 years of resistance, because once we heard our chains rattle, we could not unhear them. They wanted to cut us down, to rot in the mass graves of our ancestors and of other severed tongues. But they must have forgotten. We were the corn stalks that grew from concrete. This heritage, a home they cannot burn down. And this is my response poem titled Mahogany. My father told me we were the same person, the same imagination drawn to chalk on the sidewalk, my hands and fingernails coated in the colored powder. He slept next to my hopscotch lines and my crooked baby blue flowers one night, curled up because he was tired of knocking on the front door. Even now, my mom sees him when she looks into my eyes, when she asks me what I'm doing with my life. Oh, and someone called me Melonhead the other day, so I'm just gonna go ahead and blame him for that too. He said we both loved to write. He carved his apologies into the same door that wouldn't let him in. My fingers brushed over the wooden grooves and cuts of the sentence, "You are my world and all that comes with it." It took me 2 hours to get rid of the spinners. 7-Eleven parking lots on Sunday nights. He kept me there for 20 minutes because he wanted to cry on his daughter's shoulder. I thought there was something wrong with me when I didn't cry with him. I sat there motionless in the passenger seat of an old car while he tried to understand how his habits could ruin his life so perfectly. And now when I cry, I try to understand how my habits could ruin my future so perfectly. And we both love to make promises to change. And it's his fault how some nights my heart thumps and pounds. It wakes up the neighbors and keeps the dogs across the street barking until the sun comes up. It's difficult to even close my eyes because we're the same person. Because my heartbeat sounds like a deadbeat knocking on the door. Thank you.
I was raised in a house that was filled with chipped walls, graffitied furniture, and a stained carpet floor. Raised in a neighborhood whose people are the color of the earth, an undeniable bronze. And raised with parents who knew the number of wrinkle lines on their coworkers' faces better than the birthmarks of their own children. That was forced to prioritize the number of green paper bags in our wallets over sleep. At the crack of dawn, I'd wake up to see the blurry image of my pa putting on his spotted work clothes on to leave. Before the sun could lay its hand on my face, I could feel his puckered lips kiss my forehead and the voice of my mom. And the voice of my mom rushing him in the middle of his te quiero because we could not afford a minute lost. I can remember them coming home so late, and I was mad Even though the bags under their eyes that begged for rest, they had trembling hands that were about to give up, and their posture that was ready to find anywhere to lay, and their arms that gave in one more push for a hug. And that was almost always to my man, pa, perdóname. I'm sorry. I now know that they had you working for over 10 hours just so we could afford to stay in our broken down apartment. I know that they had you working when the sun was at its mightiest, not expecting you to know the difference between the fair pay and exploitation, believing that you were there to make their lives easier. Ma, I now know all you wanted to do was to stay home with us. I know you didn't want to go back to work only 6 weeks after I was born, and I know you felt bad when I started to call the neighbor mommy. I refuse to let another weddle take the dreams of my people and give them false hope of a life they'll never reach with the grip he has on them. I refuse to let my people carry the name of the oppressed.
I had this friend once who told me us communicating had to come to an end because me living in sin was stopping her from reaching salvation within. Funny, right? But in that instant, my right hand became my left. Another Bible-thumping punk saw me as a worldly disaster. But as those thoughts appeared, a knot began to form. Like a toddler, it took me to fall to understand what was true, my truth. Truth is, I'm greater than you, and you. Truth is, I'll be condemned by people who don't realize that their shit stinks too. It's just that mine is red, yellow, orange, purple, green, and blue. They say I'm rebelling. No, ma'am, I'm sorry, mama. I just can't be attracted to Adam because Eve seemed like the better bitch. They say it's just a phase. All right, Daddy, if I'm straight in 20 years, I'll personally write you $1 million check. I refuse for people to stone me with Bible verses. Thou shalt love their neighbor. Well, that neighbor so happens to be a chick. But I also refuse to continue to write this lie. I'm holding this pen with anger. This all sounds right on paper, but this letter won't seal itself to travel around to those who believe that homosexuality is a disease. Why does it matter that a woman comforts me? The world holds a blind eye to us divergence. They shun us for loving and excuse us from this worldly existence. And for that, I will no longer stand behind this norm. And that is the truth, which so happens to be my truth. Thank you.
I don't know exactly what went wrong, but I know it's my fault. It was my fault the lights wouldn't come back on. It was my fault that I begged the day to come back to me all night long. It was my fault. It was always my fault. It was my fault that he was smitten with the silk smooth skin that was lying under the springtime sheets, fumbling with things that were never his to begin with, coveting what he shouldn't covet. Wait, no, it wasn't. It wasn't my fault. It was all an accident, you see. I had accidentally been born into a place where I was told I belonged, and for a while I believed this. But then it got too crowded. Too many hands, too many feet, too many bodies with no consolation and a lack of immunity. To be among so many things are often missed, but not by the one who writes. The writer notices all the details, down to the smoothness of her palms. When my mom read my story, I was said to have gone mad. To lie in front of a woman, pen and paper in hand, trying to force an admission that was not, trying to create another story of that little girl, running around the yard playing with all her cousins and the neighborhood kids, running around the yard, smiling, happy. But I'm telling you, listen, no, not you, the writer. You must write your own story. You're the writer, and you have to understand there are chapters for wants, for needs, regrets, forgiveness, and in the end, the truth. Thank you.
The 21st century, the glorious century of sugar-free, fat-free, guilt-free, calorie-free, body positivity-free. The years of perpetual dieting, of pro-ana websites and Tumblr thigh gaps, of Atkins, juicing, Jenny Craig, and Weight Watchers, commercials of sprinkling powder on your food and 2-point apples. Waist trainers, liposuction, lap bands, body contouring, the years of women complimenting each other's protruding bones, the glorious century of marketing to young girls, the years of consumption. We buy dolls of women with fully matured figures, fully developed breasts for young girls. At the age of 6, my mother bought me one of those, a Princess Jasmine. She had tawny skin, hesonite eyes, and charcoal hair. It soon became my dream to be as beautiful as she. Perfect skin, voluminous hair, plump lips, hourglass figure, 10-inch waist, and 30-inch hips. I began to walk 5,000 steps, 1,000 calories ingest. All foods became a menace. Counting became my solace. Skip breakfast, skip lunch, skip dinner, no snacks. All I could have was water. Nothing was enough. I was still too fat. Laxatives and diet pills became my best friends. They were the Raja to my Jasmine. They were there after I performed my nightly ritual, 10 bags of chips, 10 Coca Diet sips. The mushy chunks and diarrhea on the toilet bowl were not attributes of a princess, but they sure gave me the body of a princess. The yellowing and erosion of my teeth, the deterioration of my self-esteem, the headaches, the fatigue, were all side effects of becoming a princess. But I didn't have a 10-inch waist and 30-inch hips. I couldn't get a prince because my womanhood never came. I sure as hell didn't look like a princess. I had sandpaper skin depleted of collagen, lips that felt like cracked tree bark, hair that fell as quickly as the leaves at the end of autumn, eyes too big for such a skeletal face, body as thin as the shadow of a piece of thread. I had a calculator instead of a brain. I became so tired of counting numbers instead of stars, of rewatching movies of women I could never become, of the constant pain on my tailbone whenever I sat, of the burning sensation in my throat after every binge and purge, of living in a Disney dream for 10 years, of women complimenting me while I was dying. I had had enough. I would have done anything to go back to November 25th, 1992 and give Jasmine the voluptuous curves she so rightly deserved. And I stopped wanting to be a princess. I started wanting to be me. Thank you.
Y'all ready? I am
Because we are!
Have a wonderful night.